Hello, my name is Ryan and I am the King of Booty Fab. And today we're hanging out in a Power Wagon. Um, this is something I wasn't sure I'd really do. I'm going to be messing with electric vehicles today. Well, kind of. You'll see. So, what I'm sitting in is a customer of Dustin's. Dustin BackDoor Fab did a 12 valve Cummins swap into this old Power Wagon. This thing is a beauty of a truck, but it is an absolute nightmare to steer. So what we're doing is we are going to dismantle the factory 1940s steering column, typical, attach the box, one piece. They're just a nightmare. And we are going to be putting a Prius electric assist steering unit on this. So this has been a swap that's been done before. I'm sure other guys have done it. I don't know if they've done it in this. I've done a little bit of reading, but we're going to make it fly. So I'll tell you what, before I get into it, if you enjoy what I do, if you enjoy this video, like the video. If you want to continue to follow along, subscribe, hit the buttons, drop a comment, tell me what you think. Do the whole YouTube thing. Yeah, this one should be a fairly quick one. Should be relatively straightforward. But yeah, come along for the ride. So before I even get out of this truck, you can see this is not built for me. My size 14s don't fit. The engine comes all the way through the firewall. He's got the original steering wheel, miles of room to the shifter, obviously. Passenger seat's not so bad. It's not horrible. I could actually rock this, but moving it around the yard, you can imagine with manual steering, it's not so good. So we've got a Prius unit down here. Now this truck was here the other day. Problem was we took this all apart, and these steering wheels are tapered with keyway, and for the life of us, it was not going to come apart. I did not want to shatter a Bakelite wheel and have nothing to put on. So he went and got a brand new wheel so I can take this column apart. Now, if you've never done one of these before, for the column to come out, you have to pull the steering wheel off and then pull the box out the bottom side. And that becomes an issue because, well, I'll show you on the outside. But one way or another, you either have to get box off one end or, this just doesn't work the way it is. It doesn't come apart like a modern vehicle. So let's take a look at the outside. I'll show you why. So this is the truck, and like I said, it's a beautiful truck. I love this thing. It's put together pretty well, but it's got the original push-pull steering. See, box is mounted to the frame here, but let's see. Well, I'm gonna put this down so I can open this. So you can see this thing is just crammed full. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got 2 full cylinders through the firewall. And if we get down here, you can see that the steering box has issues with the motor mounts. And where the power steering is, we do have power steering, but the problem is we have a manual box back here, so the power steering just doesn't fly. It doesn't have a box in here that'll work with it. So you can bet turning these big old meats, going to be cool in a 40s, I think. It takes a little bit of effort. So let's dive into this Prius box and see what's involved. So sitting up on the bench, this would be the electronic assist motor. This would have been part of the dash mount, and this would have been the actual steering column. So this is where the steering wheel attaches. Now, I watched a couple of tutorial videos. What they don't tell you is that when you get this, there's actually another piece of tube from here to here You can see my score marks here. Because this tube is kind of crimped on, I had to split it a bit to pop this off. And then this end would go down to the box. So what we need to do is we need to mate this to the shaft going down to the box somehow. We need to mount this to the existing tube and then brace it a little bit because I'm not sure I trust just that one sheet metal lip. And then up top here, we need to adapt this top end to the old Power Wagon shaft with the tapered spline, so we can use the original wheel. But luckily, this, I can almost do this one-handed. There we go. This will come off. So I think we got a few options to put this together. First thing I got to do is basically cut the top 6 inches of that shaft out of the truck, because at the minimum we're going to need that to put all this in here. This motor is going to end up somewhere in the real estate up and to the right of the gas pedal. It's the only way it's going to work. It doesn't fit on the other side of the firewall. Yeah, the customer brought this in. He's done the research. We know it'll help. Yeah, I'm just going to have to start cutting stuff up. So I'm going to go cut up the column, because we got to cut it up, get the old steering wheel off, get the stub shaft, figure out how we're adapting everything. We got a little bit of work in front of us here. Now, for anybody that's never seen one of these before, steering shaft is hollow because the wire for the horn actually goes all the way through there, all the way through the shaft, all the way out the bottom of the box. You can't see it. And it'll hook up to this wire here, and that's what actually activates the horn. It's just one through wire the whole way. So the problem we had is this shaft right there would not come loose. So now that I have this off, I can actually put this in the press and I can knock this shaft out, which is what we need to attach to all the other stuff. And then this is going to get trimmed back further, but first we needed this. So now that we popped that apart in the press, what we've got is we've got the Prius unit that we need to connect to the lower. This U-joint might come into play because if you remember the video, the steering shaft was hard against the bottom of the column, so it's kind of being torqued up. So this might actually help. We've got the power assist unit with all the pickups and however that works, the load sensing cell, something, I don't know. The lower half of the upper column, the upper half of the steering shaft, the upper part of the Power Wagon shaft, which has to go to here. So basically we just need to make this all one piece. So doing some fingering here, this is the shaft that would go out to the steering rack, which we obviously need to go down to the steering box. And we have the bottom or the top half of the steering shaft here, which has a U-joint, which will help with some alignment, kind of. And it's long splined. So this needs to end up attaching to the box. And funny enough, once I got everything apart, that actually fits well. So the idea right now is we cut this down to here, down here somewhere. This can get TIG welded up in the truck. That'll put our U-joint pointed up this way. And then we drop this box on the top, get that all mounted, and then it's just a matter of finalizing this part. So this is where this actually would have been part of the tilt mechanism originally, and it would have tilted within the dash. That's why the U-joint was right there. So if we use these bolts to mount it up to the dash, then that's held securely. And yeah, see, this is actually braced through the pedal assembly, so that works out. We can bolt this up to here, attach it with the U-joint, and then up the top, this was the original steering column right here, which obviously we've got the upper piece. Yeah, we can make this all work. Okay, for anybody that doesn't know, Again, I haven't watched many of these videos. I just kind of scooped through, so I got the gist of it, because I can usually figure stuff out on our own. This shaft is one piece. There was a little dimple right here, and this is splined all the way. So for anybody that's doing one of these, if it helps you at all, this is actually splined. And I think where this might help is at least this can be welded in. And the problem is that if we had welded all of this assembly to this tube, turn the camera up right here, then we wouldn't have been able to put an outer piece on it to hold it all together. This might actually help us out some, because now we can have this and we can actually have it disconnect and have a tube at least up to here, maybe with some kind of bearing in here to help support it. So I'm gonna get this cut down, get this slipped in. We don't need to weld this yet. I just need this in so that I can keep working upstream. I just got to do a little bit of math on how long this all ends up, and then we're good. So even if I had the tripod, some of this is tough to film in this cramped space. So you can see I pulled back the carpet. I had blankets in here to protect everything. But what I've done is we've got the shaft. You can see it slipped into there. And trying to do this one-handed, lining up where the shaft will sit well with that motor out of the way of the stuff in the dash. Now this doesn't get into the knees because this is literally where my leg sits to hit the gas pedal. So we got room. So what I've done is I've just made a mark, and this is the top center in line with the shaft. That'll put the steering wheel up where it needs to be. And yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a plate that picks up these 3 bolts. These are the ones I showed earlier. I pulled the brackets off. These are the only, these would have bolted with 2 of those bolts to the original pivot mechanism. So in the original hybrid Prius, there we go. I mumbled up. These 2 bolts would have been the ones that bolted in originally. I'm going to pick up all 3, and I've marked top because what I want to do is I want to make a plate wide enough to pick up both of these bolts here. So I'm going to go take a couple of measurements, draw this up in CAD, get a plate cut, bolt this in, and then I can should be able to just take 2 tabs to there, which will mount this up where I need to be, and then I can worry about putting a steering wheel on the end of this. Well, it's another beautiful morning, and the birds are going, and they're much more cheerful than all of us. But back out here at the truck, and worked on some things yesterday, but changed direction just slightly. So let me show you what's going on. So I knew yesterday that this shaft didn't line up. Let me see if I can, there we go. That's kind of straight on. So you can see how this shaft, it kind of comes up here. So I was pretty content with the U-joint coming out here, but the problem is it needs an angle here and it needed to come up. And by the time it was done, it was just messing things up. And in reality, what I need is 2 U-joints so that I can change the direction. So we found another steering column and robbed this bit. Then we found a shaft over in the scrap pile because all of this double D stuff, that's what they call it because it's like 2 Ds. That looks square right now. Ignore the bolt. Let me see. Oh, there we go. Looks like this, right? We all know what this is. So this Ford column, it's flat spotted on one side. It had a relief for the bolts. So I just hit it with the flapper, clean it up with a file, try to take as little off as possible so that this is a tight fit. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this fit in there, which will go into there, which will mate to there. This will go to there, and then this is bolting up here. And I have a plate that bolts onto the back of this. It's in the shop because I needed longer tabs. So I'm going to get some longer tabs. I'm going to put that up, and that way I can locate my steering column, this piece first. And then once that's located, we're going to get the shaft all buttoned up, and then we're going to brace it because I don't trust 2 bolts. So we're going to run a brace back to somewhere to stop it from doing the lateral thing as you turn. I haven't decided where I'm running that brace yet, but I'll get to that in a minute. Right now, I'm going to shut the camera off for a second. I'm going to get those tabs. I'm going to get it all bolted up. And yeah, I'll show you what this looks like with that up there. So you're just going to have to excuse not having, the video. Oh, I want to see you work instead of just you talk. Well, I don't have my tripod here, so you're just going to have to live with it. This is the top part of the Prius. Let me see. I don't know where the end is. I cut off. It's here somewhere. So this would have gone up to the steering wheel here. And this spline, obviously, goes onto there. So I cut it off, turned it on the lathe, deburred it. And we took the top of the Power Wagon column. Now the steering wheel goes to the bottom of the key. I want a little bit of room for weld, so turned it down. And this is one-handed. Yes. This will press in there, and then we can TIG that up, and then that goes on there. Put the column on. This plate will attach to these tabs, and then off the bottom side we have a U-joint somewhere down to a U-joint. Everybody following along? Good. See, now, here's the thing, is that I'm working in close quarters, and we obviously haven't done this job before. I mean, who puts a Prius unit into an old Power Wagon with a 12-valve Cummins? And this isn't exactly typical fare, but, a bracket all mocked up, and cut down, and a shaft put together, and, managed to pull most of the oils out of the original 19, who knows, World War II era stuff, and so now that goes onto there, and I take the steering wheel and I can put that onto there, and you can see that this whole thing's wiggling, and well, we're about where we were before with first, and the steering wheel's good, and from where I'm sitting, that steering wheel's not blocking the line of sight, it's not into my lap. But now that we've kicked the bracket out, we don't need the clearance up here. And since we don't need the clearance up here, obviously this is starting to get into my legs. So now what I got to do is I got to take this whole thing back apart again. But now that I know this works, I can take it all back apart. I'm going to clock this motor up. Oh, I want it up like that. I don't know, clock it up 10 degrees, which will almost get it out of the way of that, which was the problem to begin with. And once we clock that up, I can put together this bracket and actually put gussets on because I like the angle it's sitting at. And we have the room to actually slide everything over, maybe even a little bit more than it already is, just to give them some more shifter room. But, you can imagine the thought process that goes on inside of my head, or anybody's head. You start to overthink things, and you're starting to look at everything from every possible angle, and you're trying to figure out the ins and the outs and how does it all work. And at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to build it and, hope that when you're done, they give you a TV show and you make millions, right? Like, that's kind of what, really, that's why we all do it, right? No? Yeah, whatever. So yeah, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to redraw this bracket in CAD, shuffling the entire unit over a little bit. Because right now, these tabs that I have are a little wide. So I'm going to move the unit over to here, and I'm going to add the width I need there. So that finishes that out. I'm going to figure out the angle that I'm on right now, because this angle works. And once we've got that angle set, then... once we got that angle set, we can clock this up. And then, let me hop out of here so you can see what's going on. So, as you can see, we had this issue, but these are quite obviously not on the same plane. So, we have U-joint bits. There we go. We got a U-joint bit here. It's going to go on there. It's going to point in that direction. If it'll stay on there, even though I got the pinch bolt on it right now. Nope. Anyways, this is going to point in this direction. And then somewhere in here, we're going to make something that welds to here. This will weld to here. We'll leave this shaft slip. It's a tight slip, but at least it's something just in case the cab moves or whatever. And I have my modified double D that'll go into that down there. I mean, really, I'm like 99% of the way done already, right? Yeah. Okay, give me a minute. So, working late at night, I don't always get everything filmed, but we have the bracket ready to go. This is bolted up into the truck. It's got nylocks. Now, what we're doing is we've got this bracket bolted up where the original column would have gone. This is bolted through the pedal assembly, so this is nice and sturdy, but with the leverage on the wheel, it needs a little bit more. So I'm going to pick up this bolt here, and I'm going to run a brace back to here. I'll get to that in a minute, because first what I want to do is we're going to bolt up the power unit, and because I got to get the shaft all lined up, I got to make a cut here, and then I'm going to bolt up this power unit, and yeah, let's just do this one step at a time here. Okay, with that all bolted up, the shaft we made, this is the Prius top with the Prius spline to a Ford column or a Ford steering shaft. You see that piece I made in the lathe. It's just the double D that I turned down in the lathe. So basically, you can see the shiny there because, oh, there we go. That has just enough slip, and all this wiggle is a combination of that not being tight and that not being welded. But there, let's see if we can, just like so. But you can see I got some wiggle there. So the reason I need to get the shaft in is because I need to pick up that bolt that's still loose and run it up to that nut, which is going to give me my structure so that this thing doesn't wiggle. So we're going to drag the welder out. We'll get this welded. There's not going to be video because this is super cramped quarters, and the only way to do this is in the truck because that shaft doesn't come out of the box. So I'm going to pop this back off. We can get it welded, and then we're going to put this shaft in, and we'll get on the brace, and I'll show you what we did up top for the steering wheel. See, isn't the beauty of video that you don't get to see that I worked on cutting this angle up here like 8 times to get it where I want it to be, but you just get to see it in 2.5 seconds. So I got a brace here. So now that's in, and you can't tell, it's shaking the whole truck. Now, what we've done up top is that is the original center shaft from the column from the Power Wagon. Turned it down in the lathe so that it fit into the top portion of the Prius, and the Prius had splines here. This is obviously splined, and what I did was I drilled a stop hole there, cut it to the end to give it a split. Actually put an end mill in the drill and just opened up so that it's got a bit of a pinch bolt, and that bolt is below the level. I can't see it there, but it's below the level of the splines, and the reason I did that is because we needed a way to retain it. This is right there. So that bolt will land in that area here. So it's a tight fit, but we just wanted as much extra security. And see, like, this nut is actually drilled out, so it's just there to guide it. So we'll put that on there, and it's all tight, but let's see. There you can see it. I don't know if you can see it there. See, no splines there. I accidentally hit stop as soon as I'm getting it there, so go figure. This is the problem. I always mess up video stuff. Now, this just goes right back through there and threads into there. And it's a tight fit too, so I'm going to do this one-handed. Let's tighten this down. That doesn't need to be tight yet, but get it most of the way. And now, I don't think this is going to be a problem, but if it needs a little bit more support, we can actually put a Delrin bushing in here or something, but it seems to be pretty strong right now. But now, we take the new wheel, because I told him the old wheel was going to get broken taking this thing apart. And we have a wheel. And that's all spinning there. Truck's up in the air right now because it's got a weird notchy spot in the travel. But look at that. This big old diesel burner is now a hybrid. And got about the same clearance to the shifter here. So I am going to tighten up some hardware. I'm going to put the carpet all back in, hook up the pedals, get this thing back, pardon me, get this thing back down on the ground, and tighten up some hardware and stuff. And I'm not sure if we're wiring it or he's wiring it, but that's details. There's a control box that all this plugs into. These wires and these wires go into the control box, and then it gets power and ground. And basically, as you turn the wheel, it senses you're turning. It tells... Oh, you ever have one of those tickles in the back of your throat? Perfect timing. My apologies. But as it senses you're turning the wheel, it adds assist. And then that assist goes out to there, and it goes out to the box, and it turns the wheels. It's magic. So, yeah, let's put this back together quick. And there we go. Reassembled, vacuumed, put back together. I'm pretty happy with that. Be interesting to see how well this works once it's wired up. I got faith. Yeah. Back to the customer. Okay, so with that, I'm done with this end. You know, I love hanging out at BackDoor Fab. I love working on these projects with Dustin. This one was a lot of me, and he did a whole lot of behind the scenes here. So I'll tell you what, if you enjoyed watching this go together, like the video. If you want to keep seeing what I'm doing myself, what I'm doing with Dustin, follow the channel. If you got a comment, drop it down below. Do the whole YouTube thing. I'm having a blast. I'm back at filming. I've got all kinds of stuff coming. Yeah. Today, I got to move on to some other stuff. So I'm still filming some more stuff down at BackDoor Fab. Some other projects me and Dustin are working on. But for this one, I'm checking out. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.